Good morning, good morning. I hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your Friday and jumping in with our video today. And I think that this one's really quite poignant, simply because I come across so many people, and it's certainly something that I've experienced in my life as well, is that feeling of overgiving, that feeling of anger or resentment, or kind of like when we do something but then feel that recoil afterwards. And so this is a really important one. Hey Christy, great to have you on, darling. It's a really important one, particularly obviously for relationships, but can also go back to the amount of self-love or the amount of self-respect or self-value that we're actually holding for ourselves as well. Hey Di, great to have you on here. So this is one of those things. Hey Sal, great to have you on too, darling. Hey Chris, great to have you on. So lovely to see so many beautiful souls on here. So definitely, this is one of those things where we can often overgive, then rebound into anger or resentment. And I used to judge myself like really harshly for feeling angry. And what I've actually really got to know is that my anger is an indication that something is off, something is not quite right. Either I'm physically exhausted, I haven't taken the time, I haven't taken the responsibility to take really good care of me, or there's been a boundary that's been crossed that I haven't actually acknowledged. Hey Simone, great to have you on. And this is super important, because I think as kids, we can often believe that anger is wrong. Quite often we're sent to our room if we're angry or anything else, or we might have been punished or have love withdrawn. So we tend to make anger wrong. But when if we're looking at the emotional guidance scale, when we're kind of like down in a feeling of powerlessness, anger actually truly serves us in that moment. So sometimes if we feel that it doesn't matter what we do, it's never enough, or we feel like other people expect us or are placing those expectations on us, then having that anger is an indication that something's off, something is not okay. So that's kind of step one in the process, is really just having an awareness. When does anger come up for you? When do you feel really angry? And perhaps it's because you're actually placing expectations on somebody else as well, or not effectively communicating your needs. And that's been a huge learning process, even just for myself, is really tapping in and not making myself wrong or not making myself bad for the particular needs that I actually need in order to be the best version of me as well. And it's remembering that being a martyr or being the victim, or kind of feeling like, particularly the martyrdom stuff, it never serves anybody. It doesn't help relationships. It doesn't make us feel good about ourselves. Generally, it will impact how we're actually valuing ourselves. And we become like a victim, almost like all this stuff is happening to me. We are actually responsible for what we allow and disallow in our life. And I think that's really important to be able to remember that, and to be able to articulate or communicate that effectively as well. And this is where, like, when that anger comes up, it's not that we need to justify, it's not that we need to get angry at the other person or blame somebody else where this is kind of going on. It's about being able to effectively communicate and say, this actually isn't working for me, or it's not okay, or it's not actually how I'm choosing to spend my time. Now, I think the big fallacy underneath all of this that we're all sold, that unless you're doing everything for everybody and giving your whole and soul and giving, absolutely everything, then you're not being loving enough. And I think it's one of those things that really has kind of got warped over time, because until we are actually filling up our own bucket and giving from a full bucket, it's very difficult to be able to continue to sustainably give, obviously, when there's nothing left in the tank as well. So really it does come back to a whole self-love thing, and what is that standard that you're actually holding for yourself? What are you allowing or disallowing in your life? And it's just so important for being able to create great relationships. Now, why is it difficult to create those boundaries? Or perhaps, like, if you have noticed you've got really poor shitty boundaries, whereas like you just allow other people to walk all over you, or you allow situations that are just not acceptable and not okay. Maybe somebody's not valuing your time, maybe somebody's not respecting the effort that you're putting in or appreciating you or anything else. And I can promise that this will always be a deeper reflection of where are you not valuing your time, where are you not respecting your time, where are you not respecting the effort that you put in, or even acknowledging the effort that you're putting in, or acknowledging the way that you are contributing, or the appreciation for yourself as well. It must start with ourselves first, because when we hold that higher standard of self-love, of self-appreciation, of respect, of valuing our time, then we're much less likely to allow others to do that. Whereas when we become free for all for ourselves, when we're not doing those things for ourselves, we're much more likely just to have those really crappy boundaries and be okay with anything, but then fall into, oh, well, everybody always does this to me, or this is just what happens to me, or like the victim or the martyr. So it's really, really, really important to focus on what am I actually allowing, and what am I saying is okay for myself as well. Where do I need to step up? Where do I need to set that new standard for myself out of love, not out of needing to justify, not out of anger or hatred or blame or any of those things. This is true responsibility. It's looking at a situation and going, hang on a second, this is not working for me. It's depleting my life or my life energy, or it's, it feels really unfair, or it doesn't feel okay. So take some time to figure out, what are the beliefs that are driving that behavior underneath? What are the needs that are driving that behavior underneath? Perhaps you're seeking love and approval because you haven't taken the time to love and validate yourself. And when we're doing that, we're just going to, I guess the best and the worst analogy that I can use is around like an abusive relationship, where what we actually tolerate is just so not okay, simply because we're desperately seeking the approval and love for the other. So we believe that by not speaking up, we don't want to rock the boat, we don't want to be confrontational. Perhaps, confrontation is something that you really struggle with and feel challenged by. I can definitely put my hand up around that. It's been very difficult at times for me to articulate what I need to, and sometimes that comes across in a very passive aggressive manner where I don't say anything, then it builds to such a level where suddenly there's a massive explosion and all sorts of anger kind of playing out, because I'm not tuned in, I'm not listening to the subtleties of my body saying, oh, this just doesn't feel right, or this doesn't feel okay, and I push beyond that, or I ignore that. Hey Sarah, great to have you on, hun. So the clearer that we are on not only those body signals, like where do you get tight, or where are you ignoring your feelings of going, oh, this is just like annoying me or frustrating me, because I can promise you if you're not listening to those ones, it will build to anger, and it will eventually build to resentment, and it's never going to serve any relationship. So when we overgive, and I was having a beautiful conversation with a very dear friend of mine the other day, and she was like, she's always like really tuned into where's the tail. Like if she's overgiving, where's the shadow side? Where's the part that's going to flick around and be like, and be really like angry or annoyed that she's actually done that. So I think, particularly for women, this may be true for men as well. I obviously can't speak from the experience of a man, but I know for women, being the good girl and stepping up and doing all the good things and the right things in order to get love and in order to get appreciation, like I've definitely grown up feeling that way. Hey Jody, great to have you on, darling. Where we feel like, we've got to be doing that as a source of making sure that we can kind of feel safe in the world, or feel this sense of control that we're going to be okay because we can get the love and approval that we seek. Now that's when we're seeking that external validation. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to actually really start to validate myself. I actually didn't learn that until I was 32, when everything kind of fell apart. So the more that we can actually do that for ourselves, then we have a greater level of discernment of what is and isn't okay and what is and isn't appropriate in our relationships. And to be honest, you get to have it any way that you want. Life will give us whatever we ask. So if we don't feel that we're deserving of a mutually respective or a mutually beneficial relationship, we're always going to be the overgiver. We're not actually going to allow ourselves to receive. In fact, if you notice that you don't allow yourself to absorb or receive either love. So if somebody's doing or giving you a loving gesture or wants to buy you a coffee or something like that, if you find, oh no, it's fine, I'll get it, and you're continually doing that, there's a reason for that, and it's a way of actually protecting ourselves, even though it's probably not bringing us what we actually want as well, because it's not allowing that vulnerability of the next level to come into the relationship as well, of truly receiving. And there is a vulnerability with receiving as well. So it's really important to understand that, and to also know, when we're over receiving. I think that there's another responsibility around that, to know, when are we being slightly using or manipulative, and some of those things are really unconscious as well, so it can be very, very subtle, and it's about having the awareness, where am I actually not stepping up in order to have this relationship feel really, really great and mutually beneficial, mutually life affirming. It's so important. I have another dear friend that she's very clear on her boundaries, like so super clear, and I respect and admire her so much, because she's like, it's all about like preservation of self first, simply because like if we're bleeding, like and we're not taking care of that wound, or we're not doing what we need to in order to make that okay, we're not going to be any good to anybody. So it's really, really important, and it doesn't serve others as well, where we're taking that responsibility on and negating that responsibility for them. That's not going to enable them to be the best version of themselves. Same with our kids. If we're not holding that clear boundary, or that clear expectation around stepping up and being the best version of themselves, and maybe that involves making their bed or tidying their room. If we're like, oh, doesn't matter, or oh, well, I've just got to do it all, like we're becoming the martyr or the victim, then we're responsible for that, and we're responsible for taking on those responsibilities for others as well, where it doesn't always have to be like that. And it's when we can have those really honest, truthful, vulnerable conversations, which can be confronting and can be difficult, it will always serve your relationship at that next level as well, and really communicating what is and isn't okay. Hey Leanne, great to have you on. Hey Steve, great to have you on too. So taking that time to really set those clear boundaries, get to know what is and isn't okay for you. And I think the biggest thing around this, like I said, is the judgment that we can quite often have about ourselves for feeling like unless we're being all accepting and all loving, that we're not being loving enough, or we're not being lovable, and it is generally because we're seeking that love and approval from others as well. So and quite a few business owners that I speak to, if they've got clients that are walking all over them, or are cancelling and having no-shows, or are not respecting that business owner's time, or not paying, all of those things are clear boundaries that we need to be setting within ourselves as well. Hey Chris, great to have you on. And getting clear on what is and isn't okay for us. And I think sometimes we can come from a true place of scarcity, where we're willing to accept anything because we're scared that we're not going to actually be able to have what it is that we want. And that's coming from a very disempowered point of view, which is why setting those clear boundaries and feeling that anger is actually a positive thing. Of course, we don't want to stay there, we don't want to live there, but the anger is there for a reason, and it's remembering that and not judging ourselves for having that anger, but getting curious as to, why have I got these feelings? Why is this coming up for me? What is actually not okay? What boundary has been crossed, or where am I not feeling safe or taken care of? Where am I not taking care of myself? And it's that ability to be able to respond to each circumstance in our life, and then be able to look for what it is that we want to create instead, and be able to come from that rather than coming from that place of fear, feeling like we need to control others and have others be a particular way, rather than stepping into what is it that I want to create, and coming from that empowered position of articulating our needs clearly, of saying what is and isn't okay, and allowing things to fall by the wayside if, you know, that relationship is actually no longer serving you. And I don't say that with disrespect, I don't say that with love. What I do find when I'm working with people, when they are setting those new levels for themselves, is that, yeah, some of those old relationships or those old friendships perhaps may shift and change as your needs change within yourself. And that's okay. It's not bad. It's not unloving. It's not any of those things. We can still genuinely love and send happiness to those people, and just not allow ourselves to be continually in those relationships that are, you know, sucking us dry or draining or are toxic or are not okay for where we're at as well. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. It's definitely been one of the things that's been most difficult for me to do in my life. I've had really poor, crappy boundaries. And I think, you know, like I said, a lot of that has come from feeling that need to be all loving, all encompassing, all accepting. But at the end of the day, it's certainly not okay to be a doormat to anybody. And I learned that a long time ago. And, you know, was accepting things that were really, really not okay on any level. But it's in the continuing of allowing that and accepting that that continues to create those situations as well. So get clear. What are you angry about? Don't judge yourself for feeling angry. Just get curious. Why am I feeling angry? Why do I feel really upset? What is and isn't okay for me in this situation? And take the time to have a beautiful, honest conversation with that person, knowing full well it will actually serve them and serve you. If you don't speak up, if you continue to allow those situations to happen, I can promise you it will end up in a deeper rift or a deeper challenge within that relationship as well. It's very important that we're speaking up and being really clear and honest in those situations. So lots of love to you all. Hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that's been helpful for you. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys later. Bye.